Hello there and welcome to another exciting, educative episode of African Student Voices brought to you by the Association of African Universities Accra, Ghana, and I'm your host, Ajiman Ochudako. You've been hearing this, that we have gender inequality in our workplaces, gender inequality in our schools, gender inequality even in our homes. And I think that it is too much for the African continent. We have to move ahead of this and try and then bring equity and equality amongst ourselves. So today on African Student Voices, we're trying to discuss the topic: is gender inequality a threat to the African continent? Because it's been there for a long time. Has it helped us, or it is really causing so much harm to our continent? I have with me great people to help us talk about this intellectually for you to appreciate if indeed gender inequality is a plus for the African continent or a minus. Don't go anywhere, be right back. Hello then, welcome back to the show. And if you just joined us, it is African Student Voice on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. I'm your host, Ajibola Chidako. And today's topic is gender inequality a threat to the African continent? With me in the studio, I have with me Miss Mame Adjoa Ohinewa Edu from the Ghana Institute of Journalism and Mr. Michael Ajiman from the University of Professional Studies Accra and Shuaib Ramatu, also from the University of Professional Studies Accra. Nice people, you are welcome to African Student Voices.
Thank you very much.
Great. This is the only place owned by a student where we share intellectual thoughts about matters affecting our continent. And I'm glad to have you all here with me to join me to discuss this very important topic because it's really causing so much harm. Our women are not happy. And some men are not happy as well. So it's all about gender inequality and how it's affecting the African continent. And I'll begin with you, Ohinewa, on the issue of gender inequality. Have we got other kinds of inequality attached to gender inequality? And why is this issue so much important to the continent?
Okay, so for starters, I would want us to understand the two terminologies, that's
Right.
gender and inequality.
All right.
So then a lot of the time you realize that people misconstrue the meaning of what gender is. a lot of people look at the superficial meaning, that's just male and female. But then gender refers to the socially ascribed roles given to either the male or the female. So the socially ascribed roles and responsibilities given to the male or the female. And then if we say inequality, in a layman's term, inequality generally refers to unfairness. So then if we are looking at gender inequality being a threat to the African continent, then it means that we need to consider these two things and ascertain as to whether it's indeed a threat to the African continent. Now, I would be speaking from my reality as a Ghanaian, because I mean, this is where I live and I am a Ghanaian. So in as much as a Ghanaian, most of our experiences might be relatable to other countries in the continent, I'm sure it's also good to cover what happens in Africa, even though there might be a few differences.
Yes.
So here in Ghana, for instance, right from the onset, right from the onset of formation of a human being, like the moment you come out of the womb of a woman, you are sort of labeled. For instance, in our Akan language, typically Tree, if a woman gives birth to a boy, it's described as Wawunipa. But if a woman gives birth to a girl, you're just, okay, yes, welcome. We are happy you're here. But there's no value attached to it. Okay. So even in our language, there's this kind of discrimination just by form. And words are very powerful. So just by saying that, oh, it means that, you're referring to the other sex, that's the female, as just an ordinary thing, so to speak. And so you realize that as we grow up, if you find out that there are boys or girls living in a particular home, you realize there's preference given to the boy child. Currently, there are a lot of steps being taken. People are being educated, but I'm talking from a typical traditional family that upholds the fact that a boy is supreme, or upholds the fact that, right from the onset, that is it. So even as a sister, whether the boy is the first, second, third, no matter what place you are in as a girl, you are supposed to attach some reverence, some respect to the boy child. Now, it starts there, but the parents then start attaching petty things. Okay, so if he is the nipa, so to speak, then yenfa nipa no momunko school, then yen towe ma nipa no oye so and so. So the girl child goes thinking that, oh, I'm just there to sort of support, but my brother needs to. Meanwhile, there are a lot of girls that have a lot of potential. Sure. So then the moment you give preference to just a particular sex because the person is a male, then it's not fair, and it is indeed a threat, because then you're neglecting the other sex, which could also contribute to development in the country. So then you are now just giving preference to one particular sex and saying that that sex can do it because that sex is male. Okay, not because that sex has competence. And even the issue of competence, we cannot really talk about it because you are not even giving the other sex the opportunity to be able to determine whether he or she has that competence. Now, I mentioned I'm talking about my reality as a Ghanaian because some time back in Kenya, there was a campaign on boy-child education. Right. So you realize that the issue of gender is country specific. Here we might be, I'm sure you remember there was a time we used to send your girl child to school. We used to campaign for girl children. Yes. Exactly. It was the inverse in places like Kenya, even though they are both in Africa. Okay. So it's country specific. So while other countries might be campaigning for women, empowering them, in other places too, it's the boy child that needs the help. So, here, this is my reality, but you read and you realize that, hey, there's some places too that is the girl child that is the, I mean,
Dominant.
ultimate,
It's
yes.
dominant, yeah.
So, I mean, when you're talking about gender, you shouldn't just focus on one sex because maybe this is what is going on, but you look at it from different angles and the area you're in, and then maybe then you can now make an argument. Typically, if we are considering it being a threat, then it also means that we have to make available opportunities. We have to give each individual the equal platform, because if here in Ghana it's the girl that needs help and
Yes.
somewhere in Kenya is the boy,
Boy
that,
that needs
then
help.
it means that some way somehow we all need help.
True.
So maybe equal chance, equal opportunity should be provided for both sexes, and not specifically because you are a man or you are the male, so you should dominate, and you are the female, so
Yeah.
you should dominate. Yeah.
All right, so Mike, let's talk about culture, the African culture. Has the culture been the reason why we are encouraging this disparity between the female and the male gender all across?
Okay, from my view, I wouldn't say culture is the only reason, because way back in, before human beings were created, Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
as it, there was inequality at that time, because Adam was seen to be more dominant than Eve, since Eve was created out of Adam.
Sure.
So way back from the Bible, it's inequality had already started. So I don't see it to be just associated with our culture or something like that. So since Adam was seen to be more dominant than Eve, they see everything to be that the males has the physical, like more physical and capable and emotionally capable as compared to females. So I don't see it to be just the culture. It's something that is a part of us way back from the Bible. So before, if for that, for let me see, for inequality between the males and the females to be stopped, I see it to be that our mentality way back from the Bible should be changed, because we have this mindset that Adam was better than Eve. So with that, for inequality to be stopped perfectly, we have to just get rid of that mindset.
Well, Ram, do you want to say that that was the point, that we should always find men highly capable than women? Is that a point from basic culture to religious patriarchy, that where females are emotionally weak and men are emotionally strong, and therefore we should put them in positions which command so much? Perhaps we put the females beneath. Is that a point?
I don't think so. Generally, how do we define culture? We see it to be our way of life. So I believe that our conduct and our mentality all form part of our culture. Also, religion these days really preach against gender inequality.
Okay.
Because you go to churches these days and you see the women playing the piano and those things. So I don't think culture and then religion have a role to play in this.
Now we find so many females out there saying that we don't have places in the workplace. We don't have places in schools or institutions. Ours is only limited at homes, because when we get married, we have no option but to stay back and then take off things. Our career is cut short. Don't you think society contributes to this gender inequality of a sort?
Yes, you see, the ladies, I think, the women, for instance, have been brought up in such a way that we are limited. Like our brains are limited, our mentality and our ways of thinking are quite limited. So we actually look towards one particular direction. For instance, you believe that if you don't go to school, there's no way you can make it in life. Forgetting that education is just going to be a platform, just a guarantee of something. So the other things you could do is vocational skills, for instance. So I believe that it's high time we wake up and fight. So we really have to fight ourselves. We don't expect society to fight for us. To fight, you start with you. So fight within yourself. What mentality do you have about yourself? You want to go to school. So tell yourself, I want to go to school. Society has a role to play, fine. But it starts from you.
Well, you know what? Let's do a quick one before we go for our pause. Many women are afraid these days to go to school. I want to pick an example from what's happened in the central region. Now we heard that so many of the young ladies have agreed to stop school and engage in teenage pregnancy and just end their career path just like that. And it's an appeal to so many NGOs to just rush in there and then change the minds of these young ladies to now appreciate education for their future rather than just give it to these young boys or young men to use them. What can you say? Are they afraid to move on?
So before you tackle such a thing, we need to ask questions. Why are they saying they are afraid? Why do they want to succumb to teenage pregnancy? What are the things that are preventing them from being bold enough to say that, oh, I want to go to school? Now, in as much as NGOs might rush in to change their mindset, you should also know that they live in a house, they live in a society. Unless those NGOs intend to stay there for some time, for a period of time to school and with time change that entire mindset they have. But you know, they would go to they would attend these events organized by the NGOs and all that. In the end, they come home. What if the reason why she wants to succumb to that, it's from the house? What if she's being faced by so many things in the house? What if she's being discriminated against? What if her parents do not consider her as a human being? What if she's being traumatized by so many things? You know, so I think people are so quick to judge. You need to understand the person. You need to understand why the person is doing this in the first place, and then you can tackle it from that end. So if it's the issue of family, then it means that really it is the whole family that needs psyching up and not the individual, because in the end you call the individual, you psych the person, but the person goes back home to sleep in the midst of these people that have daily interactions with her. So then we need to be able to identify why they've decided, so to speak, to do this, and then from there we could assess the situation better. Because if it's not just them, I don't think, with how now there's free education, there's so many opportunities out there that I wouldn't see why a young girl would actually open her mouth to say that I don't want to go to school, I just want to get pregnant. Because now there are so many things that initially used to hinder them, but I think there are things being leveled up. So then it could be that there's a root cause which is bigger than we think, which is even not what we think we are solving. So we first need to understand why this is the situation, and then from there we could solve it. If we do not know why, then we will just be making policies and assuming developmental projects that do not really have an impact on them, because in the end then it means they're still going to have that mindset. So we need to know what's the root causes before we could tackle it from there.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll have to go for a quick pause. We'll come back. We'll be discussing what are the root causes to gender inequality in Africa and find solutions to them. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Egypt is well known for ancient culture and rich heritage. But its rapidly growing population presents a challenge: how to provide enough jobs for those entering the workforce. One way Egypt is addressing this situation is by encouraging more entrepreneurship. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has challenged young people to become part of this solution. In response, many of Egypt's educational institutions have launched entrepreneurial training programs. Alexandria University is a great example of this. AU is the second largest university in Egypt, with 160,000 students and 6,000 faculty members. Alexandria University has a very proactive approach to implementing programs that teach entrepreneurial skills. They prepare students to move from the university experience into leadership roles in all sectors, including starting new businesses. The Career Development Center and Entrepreneurship was established to help both undergraduates and alumni develop the skills they need to lead business ventures.
Our challenge is to change the mindset of students. Many of our graduates become self-employed, so they need the skills to handle that. We want to train to these skills as quickly as possible.
Dr. Bilal chose Certiport's entrepreneurship and small business certification as the starting point. ESB teaches entrepreneurial concepts and prepares students to enter the small business sector immediately upon graduation. AU set up a Certiport authorized testing center, then trained 78 professors to teach the entrepreneurship course.
Hello and welcome back to African Student Voices on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. We're discussing today is inequality, gender inequality, a threat to the African continent. Before we went for the pause, we're talking about the root causes to gender inequality, and we'll begin from Michael about poverty. Let's talk about poverty and its take in gender inequality. Has it got any room to contribute to gender inequality?
Yeah, actually, yes. Because poverty, we all know it's something that plays a majority role in our country.
Okay.
We may have the resources though, but poverty still leads us. And since for instance, our families, our homes, most of us, way back before independence, most of us were down in terms of like wealth and those types.
Resources.
So I don't know how to put it. Poverty plays a major role together with education. For instance, since we don't have enough resources, we don't have the money to access for education, and a few, I'll put it this way, few of our population, few of the Ghanaian populations are rich as
compared to many who are not well to do.
Yeah. So with that, the poor is just like I don't know how to put it. The poor is just seen as someone who is inferior in the community.
Yeah.
And when it comes to education, they are not favored. You see, for instance, before the free education came into power,
in Ghana,
the fees, most school fees are SS fees, university fees, we know they are expensive a lot. And since they don't have that amount of money to let's say, push their words in school, they are forced to stay back home and do other things.
Sure.
Let's say, with the rich who are few in the community, they have the opportunity to push their words into schooling. And with that, it really affects the development of the society, because since the few are rich in the community and they are able to push their children into school, while the poor, that are majority in the community, they are not able to push their children into school.
Plays them back.
It makes the trend or the cycle a continuous, or it makes it the same. Because if 55% of the population are poor, are rich, the same 5% of the population's children are going to go to school.
Yes.
And the 95% of the poor are still going to be in the house.
So, Mike, would you want to say that in this case, having that large population being poor and unable to support their wards in school, now we'll have to prioritize. I have, let's say, 10 kids, and out of them we have 5 males and then 5 females. Do you think that it is now the mindset of the African to now say, 5 males, you are the future. You, I believe, you can make a difference. So you go up and educate. Females, you know your trend, right?
Yeah,
find men, get married. Is that the point in this case, affecting development in this case?
Yes, very much. Because since they are poor, they see them, the men to be more intelligent and more capable.
Sure.
They tend to push the male into schooling and decide to push the females in the house and try to engage them into, let's say, a training or something else, which makes the females uneasy. They feel like kind of stressed and something like that. They also engage in themselves in other things which can bring about teenage pregnancy and those types. When the males are pushed into education, the poor family assumes it that, since they have the capability of making it, and it pampers the males, and at times just, how do I put it? It makes them relaxed, you see. And when they are relaxed, it tends to bring about nothing, no profits out of what they did.
Sure.
So poverty plays a very major role when it comes to inequality.
So I think that's affected.
Yes. To add to what Michael said, You see, I believe in this, that poverty actually begins from the mind.
Okay.
Like, it's a product of your mindset. You see, you can be poor physically, but deep down in your mind, you are really rich. For instance, I'm from a home where I would say indirectly we are poor, but you have that belief that things will be better.
Yeah.
Because you have that mentality that, hey, we are rich. Daddy, you are rich. It got to a point in my family where daddy is always shy to like go out because it's like everyone is well to do, and then when he goes out, he feels so alone.
very
You are
sure.
different. And then when I realized this, I was like, nah, though I'm a female, I have an elder brother, but I have to make the change.
Sure.
So what did I do? It's a mindset. I had it in mind that, Rama, you are rich. And I told my dad, I said, Daddy, you are rich. Then he laughed and shook his head. And right now, though I'm not working, I'm not rich. I don't give him anything. But when we go out, the mere thing that this is my daughter and she's in UPSA alone is enough to tell him that he's rich.
That's richness.
So when we go out, it's like, that's my girl. And he smiles. He's able to mingle with people. And that alone is okay for me.
That's
so
amazing.
it's a mindset. It's not about rich. It's not about you having the cash. Just be rich in your mind. Have it in mind that you are rich. That's all.
Okay. To add up to what she's saying, I don't actually agree because if you say it's a mindset, the physical cash also counts. You see. Let's say if you have the mindset of being rich and you don't have that cash, how would you be able to afford a fee for UPSA? You see, let's say you being a female, you have the mindset of making your family wealthy, but the actual cash or capital is not in the house. So with that, you are not going to be able to acquire the knowledge or education that you are going to need and make your family wealthy or something like that. So the capital or the actual cash really counts, not the mindset.
So, you know, Ram, he's trying to say that in a case where we know we're not having the resources, but somebody has to go to school. So what do? We put the male who we perceive has the capability to go and make it. And we say, for Ram, your only thing you can do is to get married. Get married, make some money, and support yourself and maybe us. Do you think this is the best position or the best choice for a female anywhere in the African continent?
Not at all. This is actually the worst thing that would ever happen to any female. Because, for instance, you are limited. How can you tell me I can't go to school, my brother should go to school just because you have few resources? If you are poor, then let's all stay in the house. If you think you can do it, I can equally do it. So let's all go to school. We could feature our way out. That's all.
Someone says geographical location also contributes to gender inequality because looking at where we are, far from the capital in the hinterlands, where the same issue counts. The gender difference counts. A man is in control. He's the head. A woman is a helper. That basic social cultural practice is in place. Who has to come to the capital to make it will be a man. Do you believe, or would you want to say that wherever you are located in the African continent, who's in the capital and who is in the hinterland plays a major role in gender inequality?
Yes, I will say yes. This has a bit to play with gender inequality. Yeah.
It does?
Yes, it does.
What do you think in your position if you were far away and you had a brother, you and a brother live in the hinterland, and then your dad says, okay, because of the condition here, somebody has to go to the capital and make it. Let your brother go because you can't go. After that is done and he leaves you back there, what are your chances for you to grow to be enterprising and much more able to rise up the academic ladder because of the decision that was made many years ago?
You see, it depends on the mentality, as I said earlier on. If maybe from the onset you've been made to believe that my brother was superior to me, and then you later tell me that my brother is traveling out and then I'm still going to remain with you, I'll feel that, yeah, you are trying to make my brother superior to me. But once from the onset, we'll be treated equally. So I believe that he leaving me behind will be a best alternative for us. So that will be cool.
Ajua, the issue of wealth in gender inequality, we find a World Bank report saying that we have 48% of women in Africa having bank accounts, and then we have, 37% having bank accounts, and then 48% of men have bank accounts. It tells us that looking at how enterprising both males and females are, we find men much more enterprising than females. What would you say is the reason to this?
So first of all, I don't think the fact that people possess bank accounts makes them enterprising or not, because there are several banks that scout institutions and sort of coerce individuals to open bank accounts, and yet they do not have a penny in there. So I think that's not an enough variable to say whether or not someone is enterprising, because we have a lot of market queens, market women that are very enterprising but might not be saving at banks. They might be saving, they might be keeping their money under their beds and money boxes, yet they're okay. Now, there's Walter Rodney in his book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. He talks about development being relative. To a market woman, she would feel she's very much developed because in her setting, this is how she's living, and she's exposed to people that are doing the same thing. So to her, that's development. To another person, having an AC in a room is development. To another person, studying in a classroom is development, depending on the society you're exposed to. So then again, I don't think the number of people having bank accounts indicates whether he or she is enterprising, because there are so many individuals that might not have bank accounts because they are not exposed to literacy, to so to say, or they are not exposed to people approaching them to open bank accounts, but are equally doing okay. They are very fine. They are making ends meet. They wake up in the morning, they go to the carpentry shop, they make products, they sell, they get something out of it to feed their family. They are very much okay, and they are enterprising. So I wouldn't say that's a good indication as to whether one is enterprising or not. So in the first place, because we can't distinguish, we can't really say whether that's an indication, then we can't go on to say a reason for so and so, because that is not even an indication as to whether someone is enterprising or not.
Would you appreciate a concept said that if there's a position of a CEO in the workplace and we have a male and a female contested for this position, there's this a bit of consideration in a sense that a CEO role calls for some self-control, emotional strength, and physical capability, which perhaps, if you assess on the traditional view, men bear these qualities than women, and therefore a man is highly considered to be a CEO than women, considering the rate of CEOship in the continent. Would you want to say that this concept should be appreciated?
I wouldn't say it should be appreciated, because I think emotional intelligence is very relative and not as to a man or a woman. I think it depends on who the person is. Now, I have male friends that would break down in tears at instances that I would stand up and actually defend. So I don't know if it's the environment I grew up in, but I've come to really appreciate that there are so many things that are ascribed to either a man or a woman that I see it the other way around. Or, I mean, sometimes I might really meet some very highly emotional women. Yes, sometimes so I equally meet highly emotional men. So I would say emotional intelligence is relative. It's not because you're a man. So, and the reason why a lot of men do not show their emotions, for instance, and I noticed that when people are referring to emotions, they're either referring to the weak side, that's tears or something. Anger is an emotion.
Yeah.
You have men that feel actually proud when they are exhibiting their anger gimmicks. They are so proud that he's angry. You know, he feels that there's so much pride and he throwing a book just because he's angry. I mean, that's also an emotion. What will we say about that? Men equally show emotions, but society has made us believe that it's women who show more emotions, because you would meet a woman easily crying, or you would meet a woman who would easily voice out how she feels. Men equally have emotions. Men equally show them. Just that a lot of the time you don't see men showing them because of their upbringing. So your thoughts, Bemansu, you're going up and your thoughts that a man is not supposed to show that he's, sometimes you even go for funerals. And I attended this, a friend's mom died. I mean, he's a boy. And then I went to the funeral and they were telling him that Bemansu, this is his mom that is dead. He almost slapped the person that told him Bemansu, because I mean, this is his mom that is dead. And because of society's perception on Bemansu, so you don't want me to express how I'm feeling at a funeral when my mommy, this is the last time I'm actually seeing her and it's even in a casket. You don't want me to show that, or you don't want me to express how I'm feeling. No. So I think society has put so much, they've made us believe that a man should not cry, but a man can show anger. Why is it? Anger is an emotion. I think people define emotions in different ways, and so to speak, it makes it seem like women are more emotional. But if we are looking at emotions, there are several emotions, which anger is one of. So I think both men and women have emotions, and that should not be a margin to say whether this person is in a better position to handle the CEO. A lot of the time, you would even find out that if you give the work to a woman, she could manage it so easily, because women are sort of known to multitask easily because of how they are trained. You know, sometimes you are cooking and then you are supposed to make sure
Your baby is
not even
okay.
that. Sometimes you're in the kitchen, you're also supposed to pay attention to what's happening at the home. You are supposed to multitask. So a lot of the time, and women sort of handle managerial positions better, because right from the onset they are brought up to multitask.
All right.
And so they are in a better position. So I don't think emotion is a good what's mark to say that because I think a woman is more emotional, she's not better. I don't think that. I think we should look at competence and expertise and skills, and whether the person fits in this job or not, and not emotions.
Okay. So at this point, I really want to take just one word from all of you about the future of Africa if this issue of gender inequality isn't solved, or if we don't come to a resolution that women, man, we're equal. We all deserve equal opportunities. We all deserve equal push or equal, let's say, excellence for each other. If we don't actually emancipate ourselves from that thought of inequality, one word, what can happen to us in the future? I'll begin from Ram.
In the future, I believe Africa will continue to develop, but our development cannot be sustained, in short.
That's powerful. Yes, Mike, what can happen to us? It just short sentence. One.
Okay, actually, I see it to be that Africa, so we are going to actually deteriorate, like we are going to fall gradually, because with inequality, it's really affecting us, and it's going to make us fall drastically.
Adwa, what would you want to say? What can happen to us?
I would also say that given the state of inequality, until certain measures are put in place to sort of put the marginalized, the disabled, the discriminated in a position that he or she could be at par with another person, I think it's going to pose a lot of challenges. And so I actually appreciate that policies such as the affirmative action bill is being made. A lot of the time people think it's just to favor women. No, it's to favor the disabled. It's to favor any person who is marginalized in the society. But it seems as though because in our context, or because in our sector, it looks like it's the women that are more marginalized, and so it makes it seem like the affirmative action bill is just going to favor. No, it's going to favor disabled, it's going to favor whoever it's in a marginalized position, and not just women. So I think more of these policies to put people at par should be made, so that in the end, yes, we agree that there's inequality, but if we can help other people to also get to a particular level, then we could say that through equity we are gaining equality. I think that's going to go a long way to actually help the continent.
Right. Thank you very much for making this time to the show. Thank you very much for watching African Student Voices, brought to you by AAU, the voice of higher education in Africa. And today's show will discuss if gender equality was a threat to the African continent, which you can appreciate that indeed it is. And if we don't find measures to protect this issue or to kick it out, it will really affect our development. Just send in your comments and your questions, and we'll be glad to receive them and answer them. Thank you very much for making the time to watch us. Keep watching AU TV, and bye.